Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, the Ma'khia Bryant shooting. First thing I want to state, of course, is I want to offer my condolences and prayers to the close friends and family members of this young lady. It's another shooting that probably didn't need to occur. I believe, though, it was stated that she was holding a knife when she got shot, but it could be also the result of an impulsive and impetuous action by a police officer. I don't know, as far as all the details on it, but I do know that she got shot like 4 times and she died. They showed some body cam footage to help corroborate and show what actually happened. The thing about this, I'm going to talk about the event chart and talk about how astrologically some of these transits may have been tied into this. Now, in the event chart, I mean, the sun is in Taurus. I have Virgo rising and the moon in Leo, and this took place on April 20th, 2021. At approximately 4:30 p.m. I put it at 4:32 p.m. because there was a report that stated this just shortly happened after that, after 4:30. And the thing is, looking at this chart, I mean, the Virgo, oddly, it's kind of an odd position for the ascendant to be in, because Virgo is about punctuality and being scrupulous and attention to detail. Now, as far as the body cam footage goes, they obviously have a strong ability to be able to discern what was actually transpiring, and they're going to evaluate whether this was justified or not, and they could do it with meticulous attention to detail. Now, another thing that stands out, okay, the moon is in Leo, so you have a lot of this loud, boisterous type of emotions, and perhaps a lot of vociferous, type of feelings coming out, and very loud emotions, to say the absolute least. You have the sun being in Taurus now, which is kind of odd in this situation, because you're going to have, because Taurus is about calmness and peace and tranquility, but people have to keep in mind that you're going to have shootings that are going to transpire all through the year, and even when you have the sun in a peaceful sign, and a lot of it is predicated on just a lot of the aspects that are in the chart that are aside from the sun at this time when you have these kind of events. Now, in this chart, though, in the event chart, there are 8 planets in the 8th house. Aries falls on the 8th house cusp, and the 8th house, of course, is associated with death. That is an indicator. Aries on the 8th house cusp of volatile, violent death, a shooting in this case, and Chiron in Aries conjuncts the 8th house cusp, which could give added suffering and wounds associated with it. There were 4 bullet wounds. Some people may say that was excessive. The sun being in the 8th house, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the shots were close to her heart, because the sun does rule the heart in astrology. You have all those planets in Taurus, which can be an indicator. In the 8th house, it's a lot of stubborn energy, and it tells me that this was something where the mind was actually really made up, and there wasn't going to be any change, and Mercury is involved, and Mercury being in Taurus, of course, is very intransigent, stubborn energy and thinking. And the thing about this is you did have body cam footage connected with it. Now, what's important with this, and having Mercury in Taurus in the 8th house and Uranus in Taurus in that 8th house, what it tells me is that, okay, Mercury in Taurus by itself can learn. It could have a greater propensity to learn through things being demonstrated visually, shown visually. Uranus could be connected with the internet, and Taurus can be about things that you're learning. I mean, you might be seen visually, I would say, The fact that well, the fact that you have the conjunction with Mercury and Uranus tells me that that's an indicator of not just Mercury and Taurus by itself, learning things, something by having it shown visually, but also with Uranus in the mix could be through social media and the internet, and falls in the 8th house of death. The ruler of the 8th house, Mars, falls in the 10th house, which is an indicator of a death that was going to gain some kind of notoriety and exposure and recognition. Also, conversely, the ruler of the 10th house falls in the 8th house. So that's another indicator of a death that was going to gain some kind of notoriety and attention and recognition. And sadly, something like this garners this kind of attention. Of course, there's going to be some controversy over this. I'm sure there already is, as to whether this was a justified shooting or not. And ironically, this happened near the same time, not far from the time when Derek Chauvin was convicted of murdering George Floyd. So, and when I'm looking at the chart as well, I notice most of the planets fall on the right side of the chart, which tells me that this was something where I guess people felt whoever did the shooting needed maybe, they probably had some backup that was with them that needed a lot of assistance. They felt to deal with it, even though of course it was just one person that did the shooting. And the thing about this as well, I'm looking at another aspect in this now. Mars is square Neptune. First of all, I want to talk about Neptune being in the 7th house in the event chart. Neptune in the 7th house could suggest difficulty in deciphering motives, intentions of other people, being difficulty in ascertaining that. I think that's where maybe this shooting came in. And also as well, with that Mars squaring Neptune, it can be difficulty deciphering the actions of others, I would say as well, and actions that were very done with perhaps with a lot of high-strung, excitable energy. And the thing is too, and it's also very, when you have Mars in adverse aspect to Neptune, the actions can indicate that are very confounding. And it wasn't going to be, it was going to be the fact that you have a conflict with Mars, and Mars can be associated with violence and gunfire. Neptune can be about escaping. That there was going to be more difficulty in escaping, being shot, I would say, could be another way that this might have been manifested and expressed. You also have a Capricorn on the cusp of the 5th house and Pluto in the 5th house. Now, Capricorn on the cusp of the 5th house can be expressed sometimes in very cold and callous energy associated with the child. Pluto in the 5th can be expressed in the death of a child. Hold on a moment, people. Saturn is also in the 5th house in this event chart, so that further reinforces cold, callous energy, perhaps in connection with a child. And the thing about it is, too, in looking at this, it's just terrible, again, that we do have these shootings that really can be very unnecessary, and ones that don't really need, in a lot of cases, don't need to take place. Again, I haven't really been able to really analyze this too much as far as the full details on the story. I guess more will develop as time progresses, and they're going to determine whether this was really justified or not. I understand a lot of people don't believe it. They could rationalize a shooting like this, but it did. Sadly, this did happen, and this will probably be on, like, CNN with I imagine this will be talked about pretty extensively on was it Prime Time with Chris Cuomo that on CNN at night, and this is just something and that did not need, I mean, probably did not need to take place, and you have a lot of impulsive actions, unfortunately, by people connected with law enforcement, and this may have been one of those moments, sadly, and it really, and I noticed, I mean, looking at this as well, it just this is just a situation where we're just saying it seems like such an escalation in the United States of violence, just in general, and we really, it's something that we really need to work on, collectively, and not add insult to abject misery. I mean, you have like domestic violence situations. You have so much going on in this world right now where it's just so much anger and hatred and people having animosity toward others, where we could actually have more peace, in one's existence. And I think we all need to just really understand that and try to and live our lives that way, um, and try to think about, trying to have more of a, peaceful resolve to situations in life in general, because we already have too much anger and acrimony in this world at this time. If contentious situations need to be dissolved before they escalate. There was apparently, when in this incident, there seemed to be some fighting between people at this time, and the girl had the knife, and she did, I would say, appear dangerous. And somebody, you have in this chart, Saturn is opposing the moon, so it's an indicator of, authority figures being in opposition to the emotional energy in this particular event. And I'm just trying to see if there's anything else in the chart I can talk about that may be tied in with her sad, the sad passing. Now, this is also, well, Sagittarius does fall on the fourth house cusp, and that could be an indicator of the end of life coming due to somebody connected with the law, in this case law enforcement, a policeman. So it's really not much more for me to say connected with this. And again, I do offer my prayers and condolences to the family members and close friends of this young lady. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.